Charles Leclerc was never just another driver in red. For Ferrari fans, he was the second coming, the chosen one, who would finally restore glory to Maranello. From the moment he delivered back-to-back wins at Spa and Monza in 2019, the hype was real, the dream felt alive, and the Tifosi found their new prince. But now, years later, the fairy tale is cracking at the edges, and the once rosy partnership between Leclerc and Ferrari seems to be turning into a frustrating saga of what could have been. Fast forward to 2025, and Ferrari finds itself in an awkward middle ground. The team made a bold overhaul of its car concept after a promising 2024, redesigning nearly 95% of the machine, but instead of leaping forward, they've stumbled. The stats tell a blunt story: just 5 podiums, only 1 pole position, and none of it translating into sustained momentum. Worse, it's Leclerc, arguably one of the most naturally gifted drivers of his generation, who's once again caught in the chaos. Strategic misfires, reliability issues, and team errors have consistently undermined his efforts, even though his raw pace and qualifying brilliance shine through race after race. The internal tension at Ferrari is now impossible to ignore. While Frederic Vasseur's recent contract extension suggests long-term plans are still in place, there's a growing sense that those plans may not include Leclerc unless Ferrari delivers soon. And that's not just fan speculation. A former Ferrari engineer has publicly hinted that the idea of Leclerc leaving is more real than many want to admit. According to him, the conversation isn't just happening in the media, it's happening behind closed doors, inside the team, in hushed tones. The fear? That Ferrari is about to lose the very driver they once built their future around. Charles isn't the type to lash out in the media. He's composed, diplomatic, and always wears the Ferrari badge with pride. But read between the lines of his radio messages, his post-race interviews, and his quiet stares after each disappointing finish, it's clear he's running out of patience. His infamous outburst during the Las Vegas GP last year, when he declared he'd start thinking only about himself, was perhaps the most honest glimpse we've ever had into his mindset. And with Lewis Hamilton now as his teammate, that internal competition adds another layer of complexity to his Ferrari future. What's haunting Leclerc right now is the what if. What if he leaves Ferrari and the very next year they finally build the championship-winning car? It's the same dilemma Hamilton wrestled with before walking away from Mercedes. Staying means loyalty, legacy, and emotional ties, but also potential regret. Leaving could offer performance and trophies, but also the sting of having walked out too soon. And let's not forget, Ferrari isn't just a team to Charles, it's a childhood dream. He once told his terminally ill father that he had already signed with the Scuderia just to give him peace in his final days. That kind of emotional anchor is hard to untie. Still, emotion alone can't win titles, and that's where Leclerc finds himself stuck. If 2026, a year new regulations kick in, fails to produce a top-tier Ferrari, then the writing might be on the wall. Because Charles is now in his prime. These are the years when titles must be won. He can't afford to be part of a rebuild anymore. The window is small and the hunger is sharp. And if Ferrari keeps fumbling the bag, someone else will surely come knocking. The question is, will Charles be ready to answer that door when it opens? There's something almost tragic about watching one of the grid's most talented drivers operate at full throttle, knowing the machinery under him just won't keep up. Charles Leclerc has spent years pushing the limits, pulling lap times out of nowhere, and yet watching win after win slip through his fingers. Ferrari, a team synonymous with greatness, hasn't been able to match that hunger with consistency, and now the rest of the paddock is watching closely, because if the cracks between Leclerc and Ferrari grow any wider, there will be a frenzy to sign him. Right now, there are only a handful of teams that could genuinely interest Charles if he chose to leave. Red Bull at first glance seems like the obvious destination, but that's only true if Max Verstappen walks away. As long as Max remains the top dog, no one else else is stepping in with equal status. And for someone like Leclerc, who's endured years of second-guessing and strategy disasters, stepping into another setup where he plays second fiddle isn't an option. If Max does leave, though, Red Bull could become very tempting. But that's a massive if, and one that might take years to materialize. Then there's Mercedes. With both Lewis Hamilton and George Russell's contracts ending in 2026, the timing is curious. Toto Wolff isn't the type to wait around if he spots a gap in the market. He's always been about assembling the best possible lineup, even if it causes internal friction. If Verstappen doesn't leave Red Bull, but Leclerc becomes available, it's not hard to imagine Mercedes swooping in with a serious offer. The team knows what it takes to win titles. They have the infrastructure, the brains, and most importantly, they're not afraid of change when it serves a bigger vision. Leclerc might find Mercedes appealing, not just because of its track record, but because of the clarity it could offer. Ferrari has been emotional, Mercedes is surgical, there's a calm precision to the way Wolff runs things, and for a driver who's grown tired of chaos, that kind of environment might be exactly what he needs. Plus, beating your teammate at Ferrari earns respect, but beating your teammate at Mercedes? That could define your legacy. But McLaren shouldn't be counted out either. Their resurgence has been one of the biggest stories in F1. Both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are pushing hard, and the team is rapidly evolving into a top-tier contender. However, there's an unspoken rule in F1. Two alphas can only coexist for so long. If tensions rise, if results get skewed or internal favoritism starts to show, one of those drivers might start looking elsewhere, and that's where Leclerc could slide in. A Norris-Leclerc pairing at McLaren is mouthwatering, but also volatile. Two incredibly quick drivers with years of experience and 0 world titles between them, that's a recipe for fireworks. Still, if McLaren wants to push all in on a title run and sees Leclerc as the missing piece, they'd move mountains to get him. The key would be timing and whether either Norris or Piastri makes a move first. There's also the matter of Leclerc's own mindset. He's no longer the quiet kid in red. He's a driver with a resume, with heartbreak, with perspective, and he knows exactly how many years are left before that prime begins to fade. That's why his next decision, whenever it comes, won't be based on nostalgia. It'll be based on opportunity, on trust, on control. He doesn't just want to win, he needs to, before the window slams shut. Ferrari's internal dilemma isn't just about building a fast car. It's about keeping a star driver convinced that their vision aligns with his. Charles Leclerc has given them years of patience, loyalty, and world-class performances, often in machines that weren't championship material. Now the ball is in Ferrari's court. With 2026 looming, a major regulation shakeup that could redefine the power balance across the grid, this might be their last realistic shot to keep him locked in emotionally, not just contractually. What makes the situation even more tense is the presence of Lewis Hamilton. His arrival was seen as a seismic shift, both in the garage and in the media. For some, it looked like Ferrari was making a power move, bringing in a 7-time champion to finally guide the team to glory. But for Leclerc, it was a subtle message. You're not the untouchable number one anymore. Yes, his experience with Ferrari gives him an edge for now, but having Hamilton next to him raises the stakes. Every qualifying session, every race finish, every debrief turns into a silent scoreboard. And while that could drive Leclerc to an even higher level, it could also expose cracks if Ferrari fails to manage the dynamic properly. There's another layer to this story too: emotion. Leclerc's bond with Ferrari runs deeper than most team driver relationships. He grew up dreaming in red, lying to his father about a Ferrari deal just to give him hope in his final days. That kind of connection doesn't fade overnight. It's what kept him loyal through mechanical failures, embarrassing strategies, and public heartbreak. But emotional bonds only go so far when you're watching others lift trophies that should have been yours. If 2026 rolls around and Ferrari's promises fall short yet again, the question won't be whether Charles Charles wants to leave, it'll be whether he can afford not to. Every season spent waiting for things to improve is a season lost in his prime. That's why the clock is ticking louder than ever in Maranello. The team has to prove, not just say, that they're serious about winning. They need to show progress, not just potential. Because if they don't, someone else will. The irony? Ferrari may finally be close to having a competitive engine. Analysts and insiders alike have pointed to 2026 as a reset button. And yet, even with the technical groundwork in place, their biggest battle may not be with Red Bull, McLaren, or Mercedes. It may be internal. Keeping their best asset happy, focused, and believing in the project might be the toughest challenge of all, especially now that other teams are quietly building their own case. Teams like Mercedes, who might find themselves without a clear superstar post-Hamilton, or McLaren, who could shuffle their lineup depending on how things play out between Norris and Piastri. Even Red Bull, should Verstappen grow tired of the pressure or politics, could be tempted to look in Leclerc's direction. All of them know the value of a driver who can drag a car to places it doesn't belong, and Charles has done that more than anyone on the grid in recent memory. In the end, it might come down to one thing: regret. The regret of staying too long with a team that couldn't deliver, or the regret of leaving just before everything came together. Neither path is easy, and both carry enormous weight. But one thing's clear: Charles Leclerc is done waiting. He's done hoping. He's watching, measuring, calculating, and when the time comes, he'll choose whatever path gives him the best shot at the one thing that's eluded him for too long: a Formula One World Championship.